We want to have as much impact as possible with a small team. Only do your best work. What is the best things that we can spend an hour on for each one individually in our team? And we should only do that in one pager of our most important problems to tackle this year. Yeah, we give people a lot of autonomy.
How do you ensure that on the day-to-day level that people can really implement, the quarterly goals?
We want to make specific persons responsible for that quarterly goal. And that solves the biggest problem.
My guest today is Casper Bakker, co-founder of Picqer. Picqer builds warehouse management software that helps e-commerce businesses run their logistics more efficiently, and over the years has grown into one of the leading warehouse management platforms in the Netherlands. What makes Casper's story particularly interesting is that he and his co-founder have deliberately chosen a different way of building their company. Instead of optimizing for maximum growth, they introduced the concept of the calm company, an approach that focuses on sustainable growth, thoughtful decision-making, and creating a business that performs well without operating in a constant state of urgency. In this conversation, we'll talk about where that philosophy came from, how it works in practice, the trade-offs it requires, and what other founders can learn from building a company this way. So please enjoy my conversation with Casper Bakker. Hi, Casper. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Misha.
I would like to dive right into it, but before we begin, I was wondering if for people who aren't familiar with Picqer yet, you could briefly explain to us, what problem does Picqer solve for its customers?
Yes, so Picqer is warehouse management software specifically for e-commerce. And what we solve is everyone that runs their own warehouse, it's kind of hard to keep track of everything. Where is which product? And especially if you grow a little bit bigger, maybe a colleague of you already started picking a specific order and you don't want to ship the same order twice or one order not if you lost the paper of that order.
Right.
So if you're a really small shop, then you can ship orders from your web shop. If you get a little bit bigger, then you want professional help. And with Picqer, we especially made it as simple as possible to start for this mid group of web shops that don't need external consultants or logistic experts in their team, but they can run a professional warehouse without those big expensive people. So that's what we do.
Yeah, and how big is that mid-size that you were talking about? Like how big should the shop be for it to make it a good idea to start with Picqer?
Yeah, we see that around between 25 to 50 orders per day, that you have benefits of a more professional warehouse management software like Picqer. But we grow all the way up to thousands, like 5,000 or 10,000 orders per day. That's really the high end of our customers. But it's easy to use software, and we also guide you into specific processes so you can run a professional warehouse. And with that, we don't do very complicated setups with like multiple warehouses and routing between those warehouses with your own trucks and stuff like that. So sometimes people with only 500 orders or 1,000 orders, but like a real big supply chain in Europe, they also need like those bigger logistic consultants. They need them. But if you
Right.
don't need them and you have a simple operation, then you can scale pretty big.
Nice. Yeah. And maybe let's go back to the beginning, because I'm curious, when your co-founder and you founded the company, and now you have a clear view of which customer you're serving well and what you're serving them with. But how was that in the beginning? Like, what opportunity did you see and what problem did you identify in the market that you thought was worth solving for?
Yes. So we started with the three of us, and we had a company before, and we built custom-made web-based software. So for local travel agencies, for example, we made the whole booking system on the back end. For some bigger construction companies in the Netherlands, we built like transportation planning for where all the trucks went and stuff like that. But we wanted to build our own software where we can make our own choices and more for a group of customers instead of bespoke software. So that's one part of the equation. We wanted for ourselves a product that we could build and ship for ourselves. And what we see as an opportunity was that these warehouse management software were very complicated to set up. And these companies also that made this software before, they also kept it like that because they got like 20% of their revenue, 20 to 30% from software subscriptions, and like 70 to 80% from consulting.
Wow.
So they made it. Well, I don't know if they made it hard, but they at least had not an incentive to make it easy to customize the software yourself or to set it up yourself, because they made so much money from consulting. And we thought, yeah, a warehouse is a warehouse. We saw some warehouses from the inside, from our customers, from our previous company. We thought, yeah, it's not that hard. Most of these warehouses all look the same, and the process is not that hard. And this is like 14 years ago. So then we already had online software like Google Analytics and other web-based stuff that company owners could set up themselves. So we thought, yeah, warehouses should also have software that you can set up yourself and that's easily accessible via web browser, etc. So that combination, we started that. At the beginning, we started with, we wanted to do this for all warehouses, so business to business, everything that also SAP and Microsoft and Oracle cater to. But in that first year, we experienced that business to business warehouses, like trading companies, they were very hesitant to choose software in the cloud, and there was very long sales processes. And then we started to make an integration with Magento, like that was the biggest e-commerce platform then. And then a lot of e-commerce companies came to us and said, okay, we need software because the Magento backend is so slow. If we can use your software, that would be very much better. So all these e-commerce companies, they decided very quickly, mostly within a day, sometimes within a week. And they said, let's just start. And if it doesn't work out, we will stop it. And if it works, well, we keep using it. Same as they used like plugins for extensions in their cart or a newsletter subscription or something like that. They wanted to test some software, and if it works, great. If it not works, then not. And all these traditional companies, they kept talking, but they didn't make any decision. So that's when we moved to only e-commerce companies. We thought, okay, these companies they match better with us as people, so that's a better connection for us. We understand them better, and also we can cater the software specifically to these e-commerce processes, like way more orders, but way smaller orders than a traditional warehouse sees. And this helped us along the way when we could add specific features specifically for e-commerce, and that really went well. And so we started with 3 founders then, but in the first year, one of the founders, he left to work as a developer. So since then, we're with me and Steven, my co-founder.
Yeah. Well, pity for him, maybe looking backwards, the third founder that left. But I guess, the rest
Everyone
is
was very happy, and we see each other still because we live in the same neighborhood. So
Oh, nice.
we see each other, and yeah, it was for the best then and also now, I think.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, and what happened afterwards is, I guess, is history, because I think it really took off. The company has been growing very strongly, but also very steadily for many years. I would also like to talk to you about something that you're a big advocate of, and of a concept that you apply within your business. That is the concept of a calm company. And I would like to know, maybe you can explain a little bit about what does it actually mean, a calm company? Because for people who have never heard about it, they maybe think everybody's just lying around, not doing much. But what does it mean in practice?
Yeah. So one of our core ideas is that we want to have as much impact as possible with a small team. And we do that with, okay, only do your best work. What is the best things that we can spend an hour on for each one individually in our team? And we should only do that. And with that also comes like, what's all the internal communication and all the meetings that's totally hopeless, that could have been an email, but you sit there for an hour with like 16 people, like, what is this meeting about? So we want to counter that, and we named that Calm Company because we want you, like every individual, to be calm in their workday and to make their best decisions, and also to choose what should I work on today, and can I do that properly with all the information and with all the tools that I need. And we like this is our guiding principle, and then we look for like what are the tactics or the agreements that we have to make with each other. So for example, we use a lot of async communication. Like if I have a plan and I want to get everyone behind my plan, I just post that on, we use Basecamp for that, but internal tooling, like everyone can see it, and everyone can read it in their own pace and in their own moment. And it doesn't mean that you post something and you hear some like back in like 3 months, but it doesn't have to be instant. So if I'm working on a big project now and someone else has a new plan, he doesn't have to get me out of my work to explain the plan to get me excited. And yeah, okay, I was working on something else. But it could be like half an hour later or a day later that I read the plan, I make my own thoughts, and I can react to that other person, for example. But because we do that and we have way less set meetings, way less meetings on a on a rigid schedule, that means that because we share those documents and everyone can see it. If like two people from marketing, they have a plan that they want to do with an event and they share it with someone, with their colleague, like everyone in a company can read that document and does also know what's happening at marketing. So you don't have the feeling that to know everything in a company, you have to join all these meetings because everything is being talked about in meetings.
Right.
But it also means that we sure have meetings, but those are more ad hoc and you can schedule them quickly because everyone has a more or less an open agenda. So if you ask me, hey, can we talk about like what are we going to do in Germany, for example? And I can say, okay, I have like time in 15 minutes. Let's hop on a call and let's figure it out. And it can be really short, and then we type it up and we share it with the rest of the team, so more people can join it. So that's, for example, one of the tactics that we use with that calm company. Like for my personally, how can I have a calm day and make the best decisions?
Great. Yeah, it really sounds like it helps people to focus on the task at hand that is most important at that moment. And how do you identify what's the most important? Is it aligned with like a central business mission, or are there sort of critical things that you look at? Okay, what's the bottleneck at this moment that we need to solve for in order to keep going? How do you identify
Yes.
what's important?
Yes. So we always kept that as simple as possible. And me and my co-founder, we were always really involved in the company. So we steered that, of course, very heavily on a week-to-week basis. But when the company gets bigger and bigger, we're now 26 people. We, of course, got more structure into that. So we tried OKRs a couple years back. But now we're more like we have a bigger strategy that's like only a one-pager of this is the most important problems to tackle this year. And these are the 4 or 3 categories there we want to invest in to take these hurdles. So that's more for a 1 year or like 9 to 16 months period. And then we have quarterly goals. We don't call them OKRs, but they're effectively very simple OKRs. So every quarter we say, okay, these are the 4 or 5 main things that we want to achieve. And they could be all over the company, like marketing, sales, support, and products. And we give them to individual people. But we share that with the whole company, and also the updates, of course, with the whole company in Basecamp, so everyone can keep track of this. And we also started, like in the last 2 years, to share those updates better and more broadly, so more people from other teams can help with the quarterly goals from other teams. So that's
Right.
that's how we give people a lot of autonomy inside teams, but also individual to make decisions. But we hope that with these quarterly goals and these strategic bets over the whole year, we give them the direction that everyone thinks in the same direction.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. And how do you ensure that on the day-to-day level that people can really implement, the quarterly goals, the annual goals, and those reference points to, instead of getting lost in their day-to-day tasks? And how do you ensure that they really keep that top of mind? Like, this is the goal, and this is where my decision-making framework should be coming from.
Yes, that's hard to do because like some companies with the OKRs, I see that also the most operational goals, they also put them in OKRs, like getting all the leads for the sales plan, or like all these operational stuff is also in the OKRs. And what we wanted to do is, okay, you have your operational things, like sales, for example, has to follow up all these leads and convert them into customers if they can. But that's operational, and we don't want to do that in the quarterly goals. So our quarterly goals are really separate from like the day-to-day operations. But earlier we had team leads and team managers who were responsible for these specific quarterly goals. But now we want to make specific persons responsible that also have time to do the work themselves for that quarterly goal. So other people can help, but really have the person who is responsible for that goal can also implement it themselves, like the most part of it.
Okay.
And that solves the biggest problem of this. But also have dedicated time, of course, especially in operational teams like the product team and the support team. Like how do they get there? It is like answering customer questions, but also work on your quarterly goals. That are two separate things that they have to manage. For marketing, these quarterly goals are mostly what they are doing operationally, like setting up a big event or doing a marketing campaign.
Right.
So that's more aligned with the quarterly goals. But with these operational tools, teams, it's harder.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. It still sounds like such a breeze, the amount of space that you offer to your employees, to your team members to have dedicated time to work on something and how you facilitate not disturbing each other with quick ad hoc meetings or calls. It's especially in this day and age where everything's so fast and there's so much information coming from everywhere you look. It must be such a breeze for people to like really focus on a big task and for a longer period of time.
Yes, but it also has advantages and disadvantages. Like if you have a question for a colleague in like if it's more a chaos company, then you can just tap someone on the shoulder. Hey, I have a question. Now it's more like you send a Slack message, and we have like the agreement with each other that it can take a day or a couple of hours before you get a reaction. A lot of
Yeah.
times you get quite faster reaction, but it could take longer, and it's sometimes hard to adopt to that for new people because in the first days it feels way slower because you have a lot of questions. You don't get answers that quickly, pretty quickly, I think. But then they discover in like the first week, the first 2 weeks, that a lot of things that they have questions for that in other companies they had to ask a colleague, they can find themselves. They can just search on the intranet, search on a handbook, and they find these answers. And whoa, I can see the whole discussion about how we came to this project and all the advantages and disadvantages. And it's just like if I've been into the meeting, but that was 6 months before I joined the company. And then they start to see I have the calm times in the day to choose what I want to work on. And I can see a lot of decisions, how they be made before. So now I see why I don't can tap anyone on the shoulder. And we also, if someone says it feels a little bit slow, we have to sometimes remind them why we do this and what advantages it has. And it's it's probably better than a more chaotic company.
Yeah. And sometimes slow is fast because I imagine not asking people again, but figuring out yourself if this discussion has already been dealt with half a year ago. It also prevents you from going through some sort of cycle where there's an idea popping up and then a year later that same idea comes back again and you just keep going into it on and off again. I'm also very curious from a business point of view because of course you're a businessman. There's decisions using a company strategy to make the team run better. But I'm also curious about how it makes the company actually better in terms of the company as a business. Like, is it better hiring? Do you make better product decisions? Do you think it also leads to better customer service? Like, what are some things that ultimately make Calm Company lead to better performance of the business?
Yeah, so we we hire pretty good people. I think more like better people than generally in these kinds of companies. Also, for example, for support roles or for and also juniors, we have a very high bar of quality, and especially in like a non-ego way. Like, do you really focus on the product and what you are building or the answer of the customer, and not who gave the right answer, for example. Um, and that all leads back again to how can we make very big impact with a small team. And then it's better to have like 2 or 3 people who are really good in the team and don't let them distracted by goals that don't go anywhere, like we need more followers or we want to have more partnerships, but with companies that don't get you any further. Like there are a lot of companies that do things just because other companies do them or because they did it before and they want to do the same thing because that's what a company does. But when we do it, when we make these decisions more calmly and focused on, okay, what are you actually trying to do? And with better people and with less people, then you get more from a first principles base answers. And then it's like, do we want to add this feature? Yes or no, or what are the consequences? And it doesn't have to take long, but only like pause for 5 minutes and think about it. Like, what do we really think about this? Should we add this or don't we add this? Should we raise prices or lower prices? Should we make another package for this add-on or not? Should we go to a new country or not? And there you also see that like maybe in other companies, 6 people get into a room to decide this. Here, maybe 2 or 3 people brainstorm about this. They write up the pros and cons, and then everyone in the company can give their input because it's async and in text and online. So even juniors that just got here like 2 months ago in a team that's not relevant for this decision can say, hey, last week I saw on TV this and that. Is that maybe relevant to this what we're discussing? And that with not that much extra time, I think, per decision, we get better decisions and more on first principles. And then I think we get more done in a year with the amount of people we have because of these tactics.
Yeah, yeah. And you describe you hiring the best people. How do you get these A players, like those greatest people, into your business, especially maybe earlier on in the journey of your business? Right now, you obviously you attract people just by the company that you have created. But when you were a bit less known, the company was smaller. What did you do to attract those A players to the company?
Yeah, we had a lot of patience with finding the right people, and we still have. Half year ago, we had a new marketeer join us, and I think we searched for 10 or 12 months for the right person.
Wow. Yeah.
We really want to make something that really clicks. Oh, I want this person as my colleague, and can they start tomorrow? Hopefully, if we don't have that feeling, then we won't hire someone. But it's not per se like the best expert or like really the best specialist in the Netherlands for this type of work, but it is someone really knowledgeable on their subject, but also a generalist because we want small teams. So you have to be a bit of a generalist, and you have this non-ego. How can we make it better for the customer kind of vibe and like relentless for finding solutions. And this is what I meant. Those are the best people for working at Picqer. So we really try to find the best people for the fit inside Picqer. And in the earlier days that was harder, but that I think this also because we were smaller and less sophisticated, like the bar is lower of what you can ship and what you can try. And then you become bigger and bigger. More customers are depending on us, and then we also raise the bar for ourselves, but customers also raise our bar, and then you need more specialists or more like in their skills, better people. But that's just a normal flow of getting bigger and more professional, and the whole journey in 14 years. Another thing with like next to calm company, we also say we want things simple. And for our customer support, for example, we don't have like a first line and a second line or harder questions getting passed along. We, of course, if someone doesn't get a proper solution for it, then someone more technical or more from a logistics side can help with an issue. But we have the main rule that everyone has to be able to answer every question, for example. And that also gives it more personal feel and not the ticket that we have to kick back as soon as possible to the customer. But how can we help this customer the best way possible? Sometimes that's with a phone call, sometimes with 20 emails back, sometimes just with one email. And I fix it for you. But that's the only metric that we use. Speed,
Yeah.
of course, but also, do we help people? Yes or no?
And I imagine this all translate back to, not that that has to be the end goal of everything, but this also translates back to the bottom line of the business. As I was wondering, like with this philosophy, the way you do things as a company, would it still work in a lower margin business, or is there something about software that just makes it easier to make decisions based on these types of trade-offs?
I find that a hard question. I think about it sometimes, but about would it be in a very low margin business? But I think that in a lot of cases, this is also just a choice. And when I look at markets, for example, restaurants or campings or other businesses, I also see like same price brackets, same customer type, but totally different companies just based on how they are being run. So I think there's a lot more possible in most companies to give people more autonomy and more guidance, like what's it for the customer. So we don't look at the bottom line that much. We see it as a result of just doing the best things for the customer, and also we as founders internally for the team. How can we make the best company to work for? And of course, when we raise marketing budgets or we hire someone new, we will look at the bottom line and can we pay for this? But we think that's just an effect. Like the profitability of this year is just an effect of how we did support and what did we do in the product like 2 or 3 years ago. It's a very lagging indicator. But that's also because it's a high margin business that you can have that relaxed of a stance.
Right.
I think I cannot find myself working in a low margin business. I think I like quality and like paying people well and giving them a lot of autonomy, and that probably works best in a high margin business and not in a low margin high volume. That's more operational excellence.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm personally as a leader, I'm not that good in that kind of business. But yeah,
Right.
so I don't know if it can or cannot be done.
Yeah. Great answer, by the way. And nice that you elaborate on that examples about how restaurants are doing it differently. I would like to switch gears a bit from a Picqer as a business to more you as a person and to see, let's say, the founder behind the philosophy. I was wondering, like in your life, have there ever been periods in your own career or early in your life where you, just to use the term a bit more broad, like when you didn't feel calm, when there has been a more difficult period in your life as a professional or as an individual?
Yes, of course. It's not like it's here calm always. But uh, I also think that because our default state is relatively calm, it's easier to handle those situations. It's fine to work 60 hours for a week if you have to tackle something or
Uh-huh.
to make an all-nighter to fix something. But of course, there are a lot of moments when you grow from like 3 people to 5 people to 10 to 25 that you have to change the business, or that your things go another way than I would have personally done it. And I have uh, grown a lot in yeah, where should I focus on? Where should we, for example, keep calm or keep it simple? And then I want to get my opinion known. And in other places, like step back and let them figure it out. So that is especially one thing. And also, I always thought that everyone's brain would work the same. So I thought that how my brain works, that like everyone's brain works like that. So if I find something irritating, that everyone would find that same thing irritating. And if I'm good at something, like probably everyone is good at that thing.
Turned out it didn't, I
So
imagine.
yeah, but I did not value myself in where can I add value? What's something uniquely that I can do? Um, for example, that's finding a simpler way. How can we make it even more simple? And I thought, yeah, everybody can do that. Why? Yeah, if you're young, that like your perspective is like my mind is like that.
Uh,
That's the same for everyone. So in that sense, also letting go of things that I find hard, but others say, hey, that's my sweet spot. I love those things. That how can that be? So I learned that in the last 10 years, and also like to double down like some things that other people find hard or don't even have the inspiration to do it, and I find very easy. So I can take that off people's plates, but things that I'm not good at, like don't take
Right.
that on my plate.
Yeah.
So I had to really learn that in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Mm.
What's your sweet spot, for example? What is one of your superpowers?
Two things: seeing what's wrong. So if I get
Very useful.
like that's in the physical world, but also in software and in setups. Um, yeah, in contracts, I can spot the mistake where 10 people have already read the contract. But also when I walk into a new room, I can see they missed a spot paint there in the back of the room.
Okay.
Mm, I cannot help myself, but I just found those things. But that's really helpful when you want to polish something in software, and they've worked with a lot of people on it, and I see it, and I can give them some pointers of things that should be polished a little bit more. And the other way, and the other thing is making things way more simpler. So yeah, for most things, I can find a simpler way to do things, to strip out things that are not the essential part, or going back to first principles, or why are we really doing this? That is, of course, also easier when you review something from someone else than when you've worked on it for 6 months yourself. Your own work is harder to judge, but that's also something that I'm really good at, and mm, yeah.
Yeah. No, well, those are some amazing qualities to have, I think, as a business owner, as a founder. As we're sort of nearing the end of the conversation, I have this closing question for you. If just we're talking to a founder that might be listening to this, but if there's a founder that feels like they're in a company and they're struggling, they're sort of constantly in crisis mode, where would you suggest they start to about doing this in a different way?
Mm, I think in most cases, what I've seen from other entrepreneurs is that what you think is crisis is not really a crisis. Uh, so I think that the key is somewhere here, like what is really a crisis, and should I intervene now in the company because I've changed my mind, or should I not change direction so much, like on a daily basis, or oh, I've seen something and I want to change it now. Um, a lot of disturbance in companies is like in small and mid-sized companies is coming from the founder, if it's a founder-led company, because they're really quick, and there are a lot of good qualities for that, like in that, like how's the
Don't fix anything that's not broken.
yes, for example, but it's also the Paranoid Survive, right? The book
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
one of the Intel founders. There are qualities into this, so it's also helpful, but it's not helpful like 100% of the time. And I think that getting out of crisis mode for just breathe and make your plan, and don't change it that often. We also use for our product development methodology, we use ShapeUp. And this is also a part of ShapeUp, for example, that you give the development team, in this example, a project and a fixed time that they can ship this product for themselves. And you cannot change direction inside the project. The
Right.
default period is 6 weeks, but you can also do it for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. But something like this can help, like make one direction or decision and say to your team, like, do this for 6 weeks and I won't change direction in 6 weeks.
That
Maybe
is
change,
liberating. Yeah.
yeah, maybe change, start with 2 weeks or something if it's really hard for you. But yeah, if that's your question, how can you get out of crisis mode? I would suggest something like this. Don't intervene that much. Uh,
Great advice. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Just looking into the future, where can we see Picqer 10 years from now? Do you think? I did catch you saying a few times something about internationalization. I'm not sure in which Picqer is active at this moment, but I can imagine that's sort of part of the roadmap going into the future?
Yes, we don't look that far ahead. We try to make decisions on so what's the next hurdle, and let's fix that hurdle. And so we don't make promises to customers, but also not for our team. Like, what are we doing next year? What do we do in 5 years? Because maybe the world changed in 2 years, and then you already made promises. So we want to dream, but not have a fixed roadmap. But yes, internationalization is definitely something that we are doing now. We are expanding to more European market because we are a market leader in the Netherlands, and we still want to keep close to our mission, and that's make running a professional warehouse, very easy. And we can better do that in more countries. And for example, Germany and France are like 10 years behind in business software compared to the Netherlands. So it's easier for us to expand our geography than to change our mission or to make a second product. And we just want to work on that vision with a small team and get as much impact as we can. So there's also that coming from that. The most logical steps is to help the same kind of companies, but in more countries, and then we can keep the team really small and have a big impact. And that's what we like, and that's also what our team likes. They all work here for having a real impact. Yeah, so that's probably the best answer. But 10 years is a long time. We are only 14 years in.
Yeah, and the world is moving a lot at the moment, but that's a great ambition. And I hope maybe in a few years' time we can look back together, perhaps, to see how those internationalization steps went. But for now, I just want to thank you for sharing your time and your experience, all your wisdom on Calm Company and on your philosophy of how to run a company like that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Misha. It was great fun.
Yeah, we'll put a note in the description also for people who perhaps want to know more about Picqer and want to read into the company, so everybody can go into that.